Computer, let's do it. Recording in progress. So if you are in witness protection, please, turn off your camera right now, just for your protection, All right, so this segment is about getting your offer accepted. Well, tips and tricks, if you will, to getting your offer accepted in this market. And please, if you got something special, jump in, let me know. I wanted to start with this one down here. This one, we wrote up 10 offers for this woman right here. She was doing an FHA. She only had the 3.5% to put down plus her closing costs. And we were just writing up offer after offer after offer after offer. And we finally got it accepted using an FHA 203K loan. So let me show you kind of the specifics of exactly what we did. Because I don't know about you, but it seems like the market has got even more intense in the past month or two. Who's with me on that? Who's writing up offers for buyers right now? How about that? Crickets. All right, cool. No one. Awesome. So.
I am.
I love it. All right. I am doing it. Okay, so this was the actual, oh, that's funny. Okay. This is the contractor. It was just a single lady. Oh, I'm a single lady. I'm going to turn my phone off of sound so you don't all hear that. Okay. So this was the actual offer. So it was listed at $200,000. We bid up to $225,000, $7,500 earnest money. Again, you can see it's FHA. She put the minimum down, 96.5% was the loan. And then the amount to be collected after. I'm not going to go through that. Because, we're doing a lot of waiting. We did write up a longer acceptance period. Okay. So I don't know if y'all try to do this, but to me, it's just kind of a waste of time. Some people will write up a very short expiration date for the acceptance, right? I'm talking about line 45, basically, February 7th. Some people will write up like, hey, 2 days or 1 day or by the end of today or whatever the case may be. And to me, it's like, if I'm the listing agent, I'm like, okay, so your client's only interested today, but tomorrow they're moving on. Is that right? No, I'm gonna not rush my seller. I'm gonna present all offers and let them make an informed decision. I'm not gonna pressure them and to be like, oh, this one expires today. So especially when you're coming in with that FHA offer, which is not that strong in this market. So we were competing against another offer that was actually $230,000 and a conventional offer, but they weren't willing to do an appraisal gap. So remember, this is an FHA 203K offer. Okay, so there's a built-in 10% sort of 10% appraisal gap. Does everyone understand that?
No, sorry, Jeremy, I didn't catch all that.
All right, which part?
The one that you said, so your offer is FHA, but what type did you say?
203K, which means it's construction loan for basically FHA people who are doing FHA loans who want repairs done. Like, let's say she had, I'm wondering how quickly I could pull up the quote, but I remember some of the stuff. She wanted a new bathroom, right? A new tub, a new tile surround, a new vanity, new toilet, but the contractor was too expensive. It was like $600 for the toilet, plus like another $250 for the cost of the toilet. I'm like, man, $850 for the install of the toilet. Wow, that's amazing. So she chose not to move forward with that. Had the cabinets painted, windows replaced, all the windows in the entire house replaced. Okay. And that was that, right? So I think there was a couple, like a door added because it was a 2-bed, 1-bath, single family home, and she really needed a 3-bed, 1-bath. And so she chose to add a door to make it more of a 3-bed. In one of the common areas, it was more of, I don't know, it didn't really have a name. It was like a room off of the kitchen that led to the garage that went out to the back door. But in this picture, she's making it a bedroom for her mother. So, so yeah, so we did that. We did, you know, as you can see, normally my recommendation is 1% of the purchase price for the initial deposit. As you can see, I'm doing like 3% of the purchase price for the initial deposit. Okay, and why not, right? They have to do that anyway for the down payment. So why not take their whole down payment, right? In this case, $7,500, and just be like, here you go, because they got to do it anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm writing up offers right now for another client that's a $350,000 buyer. They're doing $10,000 deposit. I might recommend we up that to 15. We're not getting anything accepted. I think we're on offer number 12 or 13 or something like that. So they're conventional and FHA. They're approved for both. So in certain cases, I'm using the FHA 203K because it's got the built-in appraisal gap. I want to drive this point home. Okay, because most of the agent, and then you have to call the agent and explain it to them because they typically don't understand. Okay, so meaning that if the property does not appraise, because when you're doing a construction loan, a dollar in is not always a dollar out. So you have a 10% appraisal gap. Okay, meaning that, and let me just give you the example of this particular property. Okay, this particular property basically appraised out for $200,000. Okay, what's the agreed upon purchase price? It's on your screen.
225.
225. Ding, ding, ding. That's right. What would be 10% above $200,000?
220.
Yes, 220. I didn't want to make the question too hard for y'all. Sorry, $220,000, right? So the property appraised really for $200,000 after repaired value. Well, nope, sorry, just kidding. Is that right? 225 after repaired value. This gets confusing. So I'm just going to say basically the property appraised for $200,000. So we needed seller to come down to 5,000. We needed the seller to come down 5,000. So they got 20 grand over the appraised value on an FHA buyer that didn't have an extra 20 grand to spare. Do y'all get how powerful this is?
Do they have to make repairs, or does that because that 10% is for repairs, right? That 10% gap?
Nope, that 10% is not for repairs.
It's just like there because it's the type of loan, so they can go. They can cover 10% above appraised value before repairs.
Well,
so no repairs needed.
Repairs are needed. Hold on. Repairs are needed. It has to be a minimum of $5,000, or it has to be life safety issues. Okay, which I just learned Sunday. That has to be a minimum of $5,000 because I have another offer, another transaction that we're putting in, and they don't like the floors. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to be $5 grand. And they're like, well, we really don't like the appliances as well. And I'm like, okay, I think that'll get you there. Okay. So it has to be a minimum of $5 grand. Now, I'm going to blow your minds real quick because it is more complicated than I'm telling you right now. Okay. And I'm going to try to break this down the best I know how. Okay. So, and I'm going to use the numbers on my screen. So please look at your screen. Okay. So 225 was the agreed upon purchase price. Okay. So all in, we were at, I'm going to use my calculator here. It was like 247,500. Okay. 500. 247,500. Some people are in the waiting room. Hold on one second. Okay, I got them all. Okay, so because the repairs were 20, let's say 23,500 bucks. Okay. So is that right? 22,000, 23. Yeah, $22,500 was what the repairs were. Okay, so this is everything added together. But we had to have like another 10%, 10% holdback from what the contractor bid was. Okay, so 22,500, just round up to $2,300. Okay, so we had to have the seller. So we were actually over, too far over. We were like 12.5% over the after repaired appraised value. Does that make sense, y'all? So the appraiser manager said, hey, it's fine. The buyer just needs to bring an extra $5,000 to closing. We reported back to the seller, hey, it's fine. And then it was like, wait, it's not fine because the cash to close increased. And then she didn't have enough cash to close. And I'm like, how is that possible? Anyway, so long story short, we had to have the seller come down 5. They came down 4. The buyer chipped in another 1. This is actually a referral from another Arizona agent, and not another HomeSmart agent was what I meant to say, in Arizona. And she actually gave the referral fee that I was going to give to her, gave it to her client so she can make it meet, right? Which I thought was very, very nice. So yeah, so this was, I'm just trying to say, this was the only reason we got her offer accepted in this market. But I had to call the other agent and explain it to them. I had to say, hey, this loan type has a built-in appraisal cap. Now, what I've been doing recently, I'm going to put this back to 5, just because it's already closed, so it really doesn't matter. What I've been doing recently, no, it's going to take too long. Janice and I are looking for a property for ourselves, and we too are approved for an FHA mortgage. So, and we're trying to go in with an FHA 203K because it helps give more leverage and you don't have to put as much cash down. So we say a buyer is willing to pay up to. Now, Janice and I are looking for we maxed out on the FHA loan. So we have $435,000, right? Y'all get how we got that? Do y'all know who can tell me the FHA max? Who can tell me the FHA loan max right now? It's not on your screen.
I know VA doesn't have a max, but I don't remember FHA.
Okay, FHA max right now is $420,680. Okay, so if you take that and you do 426.80, or sorry, I hit the wrong button. 426.80 times 1.035, you come up with 435,403. Okay, because you have to put your minimum of 3.5% down. Does everybody understand how I came up with that number? Right, you have to put a minimum of $15,000 or 3.5% down. In this case, approximately $15,000 to get to that 435, because the loan max is 426.80. Everyone get that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I say buyer is willing to pay up to. Now we have to remember the 10% of the appraisal has to be held back. In this case, the property that Janice and I wrote on Friday, it was $420,000, but I figured it needed a new roof. Like it was 2 to 3 years within the roof's life expectancy. Who knows what the roof life expectancy is for shingles in Florida?
10 years.
Close.
15?
15 years. 15. Okay. Who knows what the average life expectancy for an HVAC system is in Florida?
10 years.
20.
Okay, how about a water heater? Come on, whoever said 10 years, this is your time to shine.
Yeah, I was gonna say
10
10, but
years.
I'm gonna.
10 years, yeah, nailed it. Now, some don't get me wrong, last 7, 8, but I would say the average is about 10 years. Okay.
What was the HVAC system average?
HVAC system is about 15. Janice and I lived
Mhm.
in a house in Orlando that was 23 years old and it ran like a champ. I would say beyond
Yeah.
25, like you're really pushing it. But most people, so when you're walking around properties and you're thinking about having the people using FHA 203K, well, then you can, say, hey, this roof is almost beyond life expectancy. Now, what would be the problem with buying a home and the roof is beyond the life expectancy, beyond the 15 years?
The insurance.
Insurance, exactly. Ding, ding, ding. So it means that either they won't be able to get insurance for the property or it's going to be super ginormously high. Okay. Which most people have a budget. They're not independently wealthy and have millions and millions of dollars in their closet or in the bank account. And so it's going to be a problem for them to finance that property, right? So if you have an offer, right? If you have a buyer that's looking and you know that the roof is beyond that life expectancy and the seller's not willing to replace it, ding, 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 you can use the FHA 203K. Yep, it has that built-in appraisal gap, right, of 10%, but it also helps get things done like this because a lot of people look at FHA offers and go, oh, scum of the earth. We don't want no FHA offers, cash or conventional only. I love those agents, don't you? So anyway, Janice and I, again, just wrote up an offer for property and it was $420,000. The roof had to be replaced. So we said buyer is willing to pay up to $40,000 over the appraised value. But not to exceed the purchase price. Okay, we can't waive the appraisal contingency altogether. You really can't waive an FHA appraisal contingency because it's built into the FHA offer, right? But that's what we did because they're not going to understand this is an FHA 203K offer, so it's a construction loan. So what we can do is a 10% appraisal gap, and they're not going to understand all that, right? So just do the math. And remember, it's 10% above the appraised value, but what do you have to factor in? What has to be held back? I don't know if I've done a good job of explaining this.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yep.
Joe here. Hey, is that worded correctly? $40,000 over appraised value? Is that?
Yes, sir.
So if the house is appraised for 20,000, you say you're willing to pay 60,000? I mean, I'm not sure I understand that.
So let's use real life examples. Okay. In this particular case, it was my wife and myself. So it was a $420,000 house. We figured about $15,000 for the roof. Okay. So that would put us at our max at 435.
Okay. I got it. No further explanation. I got it now. Okay.
Joe, I think other people can learn from this as well. Okay.
Okay.
So we have 15,000 for the roof, 435. We're at, kind of the max purchase price now. Okay. And this is just a guesstimate, right? Like you want to be careful. I've been working with contractors and I've written up quotes and I've done general contracting work, and obviously prices have changed since COVID. But I'm pretty good about guesstimating numbers, right? And I'm also thinking, okay, this is for my wife and myself. And so any additional monies that we, need for the roof would come from the co-op, right? The cooperating compensation from the commission from the purchase of the home, right? And we can put that in if need be, right? But if I was off, I was probably off by like 1,000, maybe $1,500 as far as the $15,000 roof quote. It'd probably be 15 to 16 or something like that. It was almost 2,000 square feet. You have to include the garage as well. So anyway, so remember 10% of the after repaired value, right, is that built-in appraisal gap. You can 110%. Now, does this work with townhomes or condos? That was for anybody.
I would say no.
The single family home, you could still do it with a townhome or a condo, but you don't get that 110% appraisal gap. It's only for single family homes.
Mm,
Okay. So this only works, this 110% of appraisal gap only works for single family homes. Does everyone understand that? And then you have to hold back 10% of the contractor's quote. In my case, my contractor's quote, which I don't have an official quote yet, is $15,000. So how much do we have to hold back for incidentals?
10% of 15,000, you said, right?
Yep.
So 1,500.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
When
So
when you say hold back,
I have a
is that
que-
like
I have
cash
a question.
that
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
I
to
see.
bring to the table?
No, this is no extra money out of the buyer's pocket.
Okay, got it.
Okay. The holdback is just, so we can't do the full 110% gap, right? Or the 10% appraisal gap. We can't do the full 10% appraisal gap. Okay. Because 10% of the contractor's quote has to be held back, which in this case is $1,500. So that's why I can't do $42,000. You see that? Because the actual amount that this house was 420. That was the offer that we placed.
Mhm.
So 110% would be 142, right? But I did 40 because I already did the math.
Mhm.
So what if the contractor's quote is $30,000?
3,000 holdback.
3,000 holdback. Good. So let me give you more math to confuse you. Let's say the purchase price, I'm going to make it easy though. Let's say the purchase price is 300.
300.
Purchase price is $300,000.
Mhm.
Okay. The quote, I'm going to make it super simple, is 30 grand worth of work. How much
Mhm.
does the holdback need to be?
3,000.
3,000. Thank you. Okay. So how much above the built-in appraisal gap? What is it?
33? No. Mm,
330.
Come on. Last guess. Oh, yeah, I was right.
mm.
Does everyone know why?
It's the difference between
No.
the 30 and the 3 minus 3.
It's 10% of the purchase price. Okay, y'all get that? Is what you can go over. So in this case, it's $30,000, but then we have to account for the holdback.
Right.
So -3,
Right.
right? I know it could be a little confusing because the 10% above is the same as the quote, but the quote has nothing to do with it. Well, it does, right? Because you have to do 10% of the quote is the holdback, right? And that's for incidentals, like if they need a permit to pull the roof, which they do. Okay.
Mhm.
And they need to, what's the permit fee, right? Some roofers include that, some roofers don't. Okay,
Mhm.
so you see how powerful this can make it because you have a built-in appraisal gap of $27,000. So you can say, my buyer is willing to pay $27,000 above the appraised value, but not to exceed the purchase price on a $300,000 home, right? That's almost 10%. That's huge. Whereas some people will be like, oh, I do a lot of offers where my buyer's willing to go 10,000 above the appraisal gap.
So
Right?
to
And
do
most,
the math, go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead.
To do my quick math, say I see a house, I want to do, I'm doing a contract, I can just do basically the purchase price and then say buyer's willing to pay up to, I can multiply that times 0.9 instead of times 0.10, right? Because that way I take into account that 10% holdback.
Well, yeah.
Because 300,000
Well,
times
what if it's these
0.9.
numbers? What if it's these numbers then?
Well, we can't do the 50 because that's too much, right? Our quote cannot be more than 10% or
No, the
fix
quote,
or repairs.
quote, I did one where the quote was like $100,000.
Oh, okay. That's where I was, because I thought our repairs or our whatever could only go up to like 10% of the purchase agreed price.
No, it has to be a minimum of
Oh.
$5,000. But if it's over, I think 50 or 30 or something like that, there will need to be 2 contractors or feasibility study. Okay, feasibility study is just think about the word. Is it feasible? Could somebody actually do the work for this amount?
Yeah, that we're not just making it up. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Okay,
that makes
so
sense now.
what's
Thank
the
you.
appraisal gap on this one?
45,000.
25,
Oh, 20 appraisal
right?
gap.
Because you're taking 10% of the purchase price, which is $30,000. You're minusing the holdback, which in this case is $5,000, and then you come up with 25. Okay, so let's do one more. I want to make sure y'all got the math here. Okay, because this can mess you up, right? If you do the math wrong, and then you submit this and it comes up short, and you're like, well, you said in the additional terms that your buyer's willing to do a $30,000 appraisal gap. Oh, but my math was wrong. They're not going to care. Okay. So let's say the quote is 75,000. What does the holdback have to be?
7,500.
Yes, sir. Okay. So what's the appraisal gap?
So 30,000 minus 775, 7,500.
Yes,
Right.
30,000 minus 7,500.
Okay.
22,500.
Yes, sir.
And that's what we put in the wording, to pay up to 22,500.
Yeah, 22,500. Not to exceed the purchase price. I always write that in because my
So-
buyers. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Jeremy, would it be a fair statement that when someone is calculating this, to do the math, forget about the quote? I mean, because you're taking 30% of the purchase price minus whatever the holdback is. I mean, you have to consider the quote, but you're taking the 10% of the quote, which is the 7,500. So you get the 10% of the purchase price minus the holdback, and that's your appraisal gap.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Jeremy,
Hey,
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Renee.
I was just gonna say I might have missed it. But why are we holding back? What's this holdback thing?
It's in case the contractor, like what I want you to understand, if somebody's doing $75,000 worth of work, they're going to rip open a wall and be like, oh, all this insulation is moldy. We need to rip that out, replace it with new insulation. Okay, how much is that? Well, that's going to be another $500.
Okay.
Stuff like that happens, right? Brenda?
Yes, so could you put the formula in for the appraisal gap? I mean, you have the numbers there, but can you put it in like a formula? So I can see it, because I mean, you have the names and everything, and I kind of get it, but it would be easier to say purchase price minus 10% of the purchase price is the whatever. If you could just put it in as a, what the appraisal gap equals.
Okay, so appraisal gap, let's see if I could do it like this. Appraisal gap equals 10% of the purchase. If I can type, price less 10%. No, that's not 10. 10% of the quote. How's that?
And you have to determine what the quote is because you may not know that. So whatever the quote is, you take that 10%, right?
Well, this is
I
the
mean,
thing,
you
y'all.
would know it obviously, but in the formula, you would have to plug that in.
This is the thing I want you all to be really careful with, right? Because this is an awesome tool if you use it properly. Okay. But what I want you to be careful of is you're not going to know the quote before you submit the offer.
Right.
Right? We're dealing with a hot market, right? You ain't got time for that. Okay, so it's got to be a guesstimate, right? And there has to be a stopping point.
Jeremy, do you have a like a repair sheet that you go by? It's like, okay, it needs a new roof. It's 1,000 square feet. Let me multiply that out. I mean, it's so many square feet. Let me multiply that out, and then you add it up. All the how do you determine the repairs?
I just guess.
You guess,
Yeah.
and it's probably okay. You've been doing it for a little bit.
Yeah, I had my own contracting company in Chicago.
Okay.
You know, so that was helpful, and I did make mistakes, but I mean, please don't misunderstand. Prices are changing all the time. You know, I asked Joe, one of my contractors and licensed home inspector. He's a licensed general contractor, licensed home inspector. I said, can you give me some kind of price sheet so then I can just walk into a house, take measurements, and then I know it's going to jive with what you charge. And he's like, nope, changes all the time. I'm like, okay, thanks for nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
And then with this, you waived the inspection period, or maybe we can have time to actually get the actual quotes, and then if they don't match, we can cancel the contract and save the deposit.
well, you just got to think like, okay, maybe it doesn't do everything that's required, right? Like, meaning you're like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, but you can generally take some things off. But like, if it's only the roof, you know, and it's like, okay, the roof absolutely has to be done, then yeah, you could write it up, you know, kind of how you suggested. But with an FHA offer, I mean, it's so weak in comparison to a conventional cash offer, depending on the price range you're in, right? That, I mean, the offer that Janice and I placed, like, it was 16 days on the market. It's now, as of today, 20 days on the market. They still haven't responded to our offer, nor it's still active. Like, the agent just hasn't even responded. It's like, we can't even be bothered to take an FHA offer, you know, like, good God, what's wrong with you? You know, I mean, obviously we can't control the other side, what they're going to say, what they're going to respond, if they're not going to respond, you know, that sort of thing. But right now, my viewpoint is an FHA offer is really weak in most markets. Okay. So this can help you be more competitive.
Hey, Jeremy, I have a
And
question.
you said, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I know that he mentioned that last time, that you have to have a good lender for them, because it won't be the same criteria to qualify my buyer for if he already has the regular FHA. It's a different criteria.
The same criteria as a regular FHA, you know, but the thing is, so you can use any lender who does an FHA, but the problem with that is the problem with that is you may run into somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, so just get someone who is an experienced FHA lender, FHA 203K lender. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
You know, they may or may not know about the feasibility study, and it's just a little bit more complicated. It's not difficult.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jeremy. That makes sense.
Okay.
Joe, did you have another question?
Yeah, yes, I did. And you know, forgive my ignorance here, but in a 203K loan, FHA loan, I'm assuming the lender paid the repairs. It's a draw, or is it? How does that work in terms of making sure that the repairs actually gets done?
Yeah, the repairs are paid as a draw. Okay. Typically before they start work, like, they're going to ask for like a 10%. Well, I don't know the percentage. They're going to ask for some sort of draw to order the materials and to do something. But within the first 30 days, they need to do something, right? They need to do something to push the property forward, even if it's pushing the broom across the floor, just something to start work. That's a hard deadline. 30 days has to something be done. And then I think depending on the amount of work, it needs to be done within 6 months.
Okay. All right. And
Five
is the loan closed before the work is completed? I mean, is the
Oh, yeah.
the buyer moving to the home?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I don't have any experience with this next part, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, the loan closes before any work is done. Okay. So it's almost like this, right? This is the procedure. You write up the offer, you get it accepted, then you could still do a home inspection, right? But at that same time, I would get the contractor there and take measurements and this and that and the other thing. And then any other items that come up on the home inspection, you could of course include those into the FHA loan, right? And then you just pick and choose. And at the end of the day, what might end up happening, right, is that, what might end up happening is that you have to take some things away. But this is the problem with taking things away. Before the appraisal can be done, the appraiser needs to receive the contractor's quote. Okay. So you get the property on a contract, contractor gets a quote, you do a home inspection or not, that's up to your client. Okay. Contractor gets a quote, sends it over, you get the quote or two, or quote and feasibility study. Then you send that over to the lender sends that to the appraiser goes out once they receive the quote. Okay. So my drama, if you will, around this, when I was doing this transaction with Sharon over in Holiday, Florida, is that I couldn't get, it's not my area, right? I was trying to help a friend, right? It's not my area. It's 2 hours away from me. I'm trying to get my Orlando contractors to go all the way out to Holiday to give me a freaking quote. And it's like a week and a half. I'm like, oh, and then they don't get you the quote right then. So it was 2 weeks before we even got the quote. We're trying to wrap up this in like 30 days. We ended up closing it in 35 days. A normal FHA 203K takes 45. So just so you know, you can get it done quicker. If you got a good contractor, which if you're in the Orlando area and you don't have one, call me up. I work with, investors and stuff like that. I have contractors who, can get out there quickly, who can get you a quote quickly, who will give you like fair investor type pricing. Okay. Not a commercial. I don't get anything for it. I'm just trying to say like, I can help. If you're in a different area, I would hit up like the local Facebook groups and this and that and the other thing to try to get, somebody good.
So,
Okay.
so Jeremy, on the flip side of the coin too, if just an individual, just a word to the wise, I guess, if it's just an individual putting in a pool in their home and it costs say $40,000, it's a good idea, it's recommended, highly recommended that you do a holdback also, right? If your house is paid for, you go to the bank or you take it out of your personal funds and you put in a $40,000 pool. It's a good idea to, even after it's completed, to have a holdback for so many days, right? Would you agree?
Hold back for so many days for what?
Hold back. In other words, don't pay if the pool costs $40,000, hold back, 10% of that for after the work is completed to make sure there are no issues, because once the work is done and you paid for it, the contractor is going to be gone and you never see him again. So as insurance to you as a homeowner, having work done.
I wouldn't do that because then the contractor is going to put a lien on your property.
No, well, my point is to put, you can set it up in the contract when you first do it, because I personally have had experience with, paying for things up front, and when it's completed, the contract is gone, you paid them and you never see them again, and you can't find them. So as a rule of thumb, that's what I always do when I have work done. I always hold back 10% for so many days. It doesn't have to be 30 days. It could be whatever you both agree on. It's
Okay.
just something that
That's a good idea. I just, the flip side of that is the contractor won't give you a lien release or, basically say payment in full. But again, you can explain the situation and just simply say, hey, I've been burned before. This is a new relationship. I'm going to hold back, 10% until 10 days, 2 weeks after, just to make sure everything's functioning properly with the pool. Now,
Right.
I do not know if this would work for a pool.
Mhm.
Okay. As I do know that $1 in is not always $1 out with a pool. That's definitely the case. You could easily spend 50 grand on the pool, and the appraisal is only going to be affected by, maybe $10,000-$20,000. So that's where the appraisal gap helps you, but I don't know if you can actually do a pool to accomplish an FHA 203K loan. So that would be something to ask the lender. I wouldn't know, that's never come up. It's typically, the house is not everything that they wanted or expected in this market. I know that's a surprise, right? And so they're settling because it's the home that they can get in. But with this FHA 203K, well, they can have the repairs done 30 to 45 or 60 days, whatever the contractor says, after they move in. Now, I do know that if it's going to be a longer renovation, they can roll their mortgage payments into the FHA 203K loan as well. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yep.
Is there like a list of guidelines or something? Because it seems like some of these things, I guess everything's all variable, like at the price of the house. Obviously, if the house is priced close to the comps that are out there, but it does need a new roof, but nobody really saw that until after they, had a close inspection of it, then is the house going to be worth $15,000 more just by putting a new roof on it? I mean, is the FHA going to take that into account, or the HVAC system? I mean, let's say the house is 8 years old and most of the ones in the neighborhood have a new HVAC system, and this one is priced close to what those are. Now, are you going to be, I'm wondering all these different variables. You just kind of roll the dice and see what the appraiser says, or
Yeah, pretty much. And at the end of the day, right, the seller's gonna get more with this loan type just automatically built in, right? Which is not gonna have your buyer come out of pocket at all, right? That's the benefit, right? If you this is not for like a traditional conventional buyer who's got an extra 20 grand, to cover an appraisal gap, or can waive the appraisal gap altogether, right? That's a super strong conventional buyer, right? They're going to be easy. I got one flying in from Illinois that they're doing up to $800,000. They're putting 20% down, but they're selling their house at, this, that, and the other thing, and they're almost all cash, So potential. I mean, they want to, just do 20%, but they can do like an extra $100,000 or just waive the appraisal gap altogether, right? Something like that would be more powerful than the FHA 203K, right? This is for, hey, you got your first time buyer, if you will, or just somebody with not a lot of capital to put down, right? They qualify for the FHA, they got their 3.5%. That's it, So it's how much value is a roof going to add? It's functional, right? Like an HVAC system, it's functional. But if the seller doesn't have the means, or doesn't want to do it, or just is refusing, this is a workaround. Does that make sense to everybody? I guess I can stop share at this point.
what percentage of the appraisals kind of go off track, do you think? Is it 5%, 10% as far as these upgrades or improvements?
Well, like you look at it like this, like kitchens and bathrooms, right? You've been in the business a long time, John. I'm sure you've heard kitchens and bathrooms are the best investments you can make in your home, right? So if someone's doing work to the kitchen or bathroom, in this particular case, this example that I was giving, it was a woman that was putting in a brand new bathroom, basically, right? The flooring, the towel, the tub, the vanity. She was gonna, toilet, like, whatever. The contractor came in too high for the toilet. Windows. She was convinced that the windows were gonna add so much value, and it was like $10,000. I'm like, the windows will not add any value. I've never said I had an appraiser come in and go, oh my gosh, look at these windows. Like, oh, that's going to appraise for at least $20,000 more. If they're broken, don't get me wrong, that's a problem. But you got to use common sense. Like John, you were saying, is the roof really add value? No, but it's a functional thing that needs to, like an HVAC system. No, they're not going to compare that to another HVAC system on another. Well, this house over here had a brand new Nope, it's just something functional that needs to be done. And that's why the appraisal gap is built in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, like, in the example, the one you wrote on, you said it was on the market for 16 days. So I'm assuming it was either overpriced or everybody saw that it needed all this work and that's why it's still sitting there. Is that the case on that?
Yeah. Well, the roof was at the end of its life. The HVAC system was at the end of its life. It was built in 2007 or 2008, something like that. There was basically 3 years, 2 to 3 years life expectancy on the HVAC system and the roof. So it's like, that's going to be a big, that size house, 2,000 square feet is probably $8,000 for an HVAC system, plus 15, maybe 16 grand for the roof. So somebody dropping money plus doing the appraisal gap, closing costs, everything, roughly $30,000, right? Just for down payment closing costs for a $435,000 loan, you're talking about 30 grand, right? Plus you got to figure in a roof that's, let's say 16,000 plus another 8,000. What do we have? 46, 54 or so, $54,000 for the first time home buyer. Welcome to the housing market. Not everyone has that, right? Not your typical home buyer, first time home buyer doesn't have that. Okay, I was gonna wrap it up. Any other questions? Questions? I love all these questions.
Jeremy, you're gonna kill me. I thought I saved the information for the lender you have. Do you mind dropping it again in the chat? I'm sorry. I'll make contact today.
I don't believe it.
Introduce myself. Yes,
Lies.
I will, because that way I'll save it.
Lies, you're telling me lies.
No, no, no.
Lies, tell me sweet little lies.
Thank you.
Now, please don't misunderstand. This is just a person I use for the past 13, 14 years or so. There are other people out there that you can use as well. This is my standard realtor pitch, right? He's got an impossibly long, impossible to spell last name, so just so you're aware. On his email too. Oh, my number lock wasn't on. I did that for nothing. Okay. Any other questions while I'm typing?
No, we'll just start submitting offers with that. I'm just kidding. As soon as my buyer applies for that. And you said we don't need to let the listing agent know it's that type of loan, right? They don't need
I
to
do
know.
I do let him know, right? I
Oh.
let him know how powerful it is, because the typical things that are going to come up on an FHA that they're concerned about taking an FHA offer, they're like, oh, this loan might get denied because of The roof. Okay, that's cool. We got the roof already figured in there. Well, you know, this is an older electrical panel, so there might be an issue with that. That's cool. We've already got that figured in.
Okay.
Okay. So I try to go out of my way to have a conversation
Hello,
with
guys.
them.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, but what happened with the regular FHA loan that it doesn't have an appraisal contingency? How it works that that type of loan without appraisal contingency?
I don't think it does. I mean, I guess you could write in additional comments that they waived their appraisal contingency, but then you need some kind of proof of funds to back up that they're waiving, that they have money in reserve for that appraisal contingency. Because you have to.
I saw, because when you are like a FHA loan approved and you're presenting the offer, I heard, because I haven't done that, I heard that you don't need to present the appraiser contingency addendum. So that's my question.
I guess, but you're going to have an FHA mandatory addendum clause that you'll need to do before the loan is done. So, I mean, you could still do the FHA because there's more than just the appraisal contingency and the FHA addendum, you know, for paperwork to be compliant, and then write into additional terms that the buyer is willing to waive the appraisal contingency and come up with cash out of pocket for any, you know, anything that it doesn't appraise for. But then you would need to, you know, if I'm the listing agent, I want you to submit proof of funds to prove it.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome. Anyone else? All right, I'm gonna wrap it up, y'all. Y'all have a great day. Go out and sell some homes today. Come on, what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming, y'all.
You bet.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everyone.